In today's episode of Locked On Pistons podcast, you're getting part two to our conversation with Omari Sankovic II, Detroit Free Press beat writer, and his co-host of the Pistons Pulse podcast, Bryce Simon. Stay tuned for all of it in today's episode of Locked On Pistons podcast.
You are Locked On Pistons, your daily Detroit Pistons podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's the deal? Welcome back to another episode of Locked On Pistons podcast. Per usual, I'm your host, Kuka Hill. You can find me over on Twitter at Kuka Hill. I want to thank you guys for making Locked On Pistons your first listen of every single day. Free and available on all your podcast platforms. Hit that subscribe button to the YouTube channel. Leave us a 5-star review on whatever podcast platform you're listening to us on. This is another great way to support the podcast. And today's episode is also brought to you by Monopoly Go. Game off. We got to talk more about Monopoly Go. This fast-paced game lets you team up with friends for tournaments to unlock awesome prizes like unique stickers for trading, cool playing pieces, and hilarious emojis for taunting your friends. So download Monopoly Go now, free on Google Play or the App Store. Game on. This is going to be a very brief intro. I want to get you guys to the next part of our episode with Bryce Simon and Omari Sankovic II. I hope you guys enjoyed the first part. You guys should definitely listen to the first part before you get to the second part. Gave you guys a little bit of a cliffhanger where we ended off. Bryce was talking about teams that play with two guards, and we had just left them off talking about Cleveland. So that's where we're picking back up off of. Again, you should listen to the first part before you get to this one. But I hope you guys enjoyed the rest of this episode. I'll catch you guys later. I hope you guys enjoy it. Till next time, I'll see you guys then. Enjoy this episode. Peace out.
Right? They're the one team trying to do that on this list, I thought. So Orlando, both wings, forwards. The Pacers, one in Halliburton. Sixers have one in Maxey. The Heat, Heat culture is just different. The Hawks, Murray and Young flamed out. Like they're going to trade one of those guys because it doesn't work. Let's go to the West. Oklahoma City, perfectly built with one guard, one wing, one big. The Nuggets, Jamal Murray. The Timberwolves, just one guy in Anthony Edwards. The Clippers, both wings. I'm going to skip the Mavericks because that's obviously the Suns tried it with Bill and Booker. Didn't work. The Lakers don't have one. Pelicans, they're just, Zion's different. The Kings, just the Aaron Fox, and then the Warriors now. But I went through it. I'm like, dang, Omari, that kind of makes sense. So
you want to know the main takeaway I get from those, what you just mentioned? So I'm a huge JJ Redick fan. I listen to everything he does. I think he's I think he's one of the best basketball minds.
You want him to coach the Pistons is what you just said.
I would be cool with it, yes. But that's not where I'm going. But yeah, I would be happy.
Aggregate it, put it on Twitter.
Yes, do that. but so what I take away from it, I listened to a podcast of his last year, and he was talking to a Boston Celtics player. And he was talking about the only question he has about the Boston Celtics, or he had about the Boston Celtics, was their two best players. Are they able to run actions involving each other that make each other better? To where, for example, you brought up the Kings. You can run that DHO. You can run that action with Domantas Sabonis, De'Aaron Fox. You can run that action, Jamal Murray, Nikola Jokic. You can run that action. Does all those players you mentioned, they play off each other. You can run actions with each other that are playing off of each other. He kind of talked about how one of the concerns he had about Boston, he loves Boston. I'm not saying he's ruling him out, but one of the things he said about Boston that is a little bit of a criticism or a concern they had last year was Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, they're kind of redundant. Can you run stuff off of them too? It's more so your turn, their turn. They're on the opposite sides of the floor. Can you do stuff with them, with both of them? I feel like that's part of it too. Cade needs a partner that you can run stuff, you can run stuff through them both. That needs to be the partner. So, and also, I think part of it is a guard that is terrible defensively. It's a smaller guard that's terrible. It's just not ever going to work. It's just not.
So that's where I think the reason the Luka Kyrie thing works is because Kyrie is actually the perfect guard to play off of Luka, because I never appreciated Kyrie's off-ball ability the way I should. It is not easy to play off the ball the way Kyrie does when Luka's in the game and then go be an on-ball player when Luka's out of the game. And Kyrie's probably a little bit better of a defender than what I gave him credit for, just with active hands and some of those things. And so that's why that one works, in my opinion, is Kyrie is this perfect blend of on and off ball.
And Luka's also just massive at 6'8".
And he's with all due respect to Cade, Luka is tiers above that right now.
So I'm gonna see that dynamic as a smaller version of Jokic and Jamal Murray, right? And,
yeah, sure.
And Murray and Kyrie, those guys are perfectly suited for those roles because in general, small guys are much easier to solve in the playoffs, and you're giving up more on defense, and those guys give you so much offensively that you're not like it just cancels that other aspect out, right? But
And
Luka's massive, so yeah.
And you got two of the best ISO scorers we've seen. Like you go
Sure.
Luka,
Yeah.
Kyrie, they just your turn, go get a mismatch, Cook. Okay, Luka, you go get a mismatch, Cook. Like it fits what they try to do over there.
I mean, it just, to me, Oklahoma City is the team that's changed my mind on all of this in terms of not only have they drafted well, guys, they have the ball handler, they have the wing, and they have the stretch big, and it all fits perfectly together. Shea, J-Dub, Chet, and J-Dub plays off of Shea when Shea's on the floor, and then when Shea steps off the floor, J-Dub takes over. And it's a perfect marriage, and that's why, and I've told you this, I'm not going to change my thoughts on who Jaden Ivey is as a player, as a talent. Where I'm starting to question myself is the fit with Cade, and in general, his fit in modern NBA as that archetype of player. That's what I'm starting to question. I'll be honest, and I don't want to go draft stuff. This is why I'm starting to question how I feel about a guy named Ron Holland with the G League Ignite, just in general, because there's some of the same stuff with him that makes me wonder. And so anyway, that's where I'm at with Ivy now.
So just to hit on that a little bit further, a lot of fans probably pick up on this. I'll go ahead and just say it out loud. You know, I'll admit, I kind of been beating around the bush a little bit by saying this, but I'll just go ahead and say it. I'm not very high on Jaden Ivey at this point. Like I'm just not. I won't be shocked. Like I said earlier, I won't be shocked if he's a really good player a few years down the line. I think he's farther away than people think. But with that said, I had the Pelicans, Jake Madison, Locked On Pelicans host last podcast. And we talked about Brandon Ingram, whatever. And one of the things he brought up was, if you get Cade and Brandon Ingram, basketball is a beautiful game, but at the end of the day, it does have math to it. Like if you're going to take too many twos and not enough threes, you're probably going to lose a lot. Like you need to be able to take some threes. Bryce, this is something you've brought up to me that you have an issue with how the Pistons utilize Jaden Ivey, which again goes back to the first topic. I think it's just the reality of the situation the Pistons are in.
Fair.
If you're going to play Cade, Asar, who's not going to get threes up, Duren, who's not going to get threes up, the volume threes are going to have to come from somewhere. Like you're going to have to get threes up, and that's what Ivey's role is. And people get mad when I bring this up as if I made this stat up. Like this is like I didn't make this up. Jaden Ivey last season. You want to know how many possessions he had as a spot up shooter?
How many?
Yeah, I'd be curious to know.
309 possessions as a spot up shooter this past season. He was in the 14th percentile.
Interesting.
He was one of the worst spot up shooters in the NBA this past season. So that's why, look, if Ivy, I had someone say to me the other day, like if Ivy goes to Brooklyn, you trade him to Brooklyn and they blow it up and you just give him the reins and let him go off. I'm sure he probably that'd probably be better for him if you could just give him the reins and let him go crazy and let him use his chaotic energy. It probably would do good. But if the role that you have for Jaden Ivey is he is going to be our volume 3-point shooter, and I don't want to talk about his defense. I know like his defense is not good. I don't think very highly of it long term. But anyways, like if he's going to be a volume 3-point shooter, it's just like it's not going to work. Like I'm completely out on that. He's not going to be the guy spacing the floor for you. I think Sam even said that on the podcast with you guys that like you kind of have to trust him to hit some of them, but the defense isn't going to be like respecting him to a point where if Cade drives at the nail, they're like, oh, we got to get back out to Ivy. They're going to be reaching down, ripping through, trying to hit Cade because that's why I'm out on the Ivy experiment for this. I would move on from Ivy because I don't think they can play together. I think the idea of Ivy as a player, his ending archetype fits with Cade. I think he's a little bit away from that. And I don't think the Pistons have time to wait for him to get to that. That's why, as far as Duren, I'd move Duren too. But the thing with Duren is that he naturally fits with Cade. If you just have him be a lob threat and a pick and roll guy, and he just fits with Cade. But I would move him because I think you can replace that with like Claxton, Harden, like those kind of roles, lob threat, protect the rim, set screens, don't do anything else. You can get that for cheap. So that's where the reason why I brought that up is to give you guys an idea of where I'm at with the two prospects, why I feel the way I said I feel about him.
Yeah, and I think the issue with Ivy with his fit is not just the shooting, but that he didn't necessarily make the strides you want to see as a playmaker, a ball handler last season either. I think for that offense to work with Cade and Ivy next to each other, you probably have to play Cade a lot more off ball when Ivy's on the floor, just because Cade is a catch and shoot threat. But that only works if Ivy can handle the playmaking aspect, right? He's going to get downhill and you need the floor spread around him as much as you can get it, but he's still got to be able to make the right reads, and that hasn't quite been there yet either. So that's why, like, kind of when you talk about potential, like that's like a really, really hard concept to quantify, right? Because you'll have, people who will never ever trade a certain guy because they're like, why would I ever trade Jalen Duren when he's 20 and he's already doing this and that? And a lot of times the stuff that they're not doing is stuff that they haven't even really shown that they can do, right? They're not going to learn it just because they're young. I think in a lot of ways, I don't want to say like you are who you are, but like you have to have like a base to build from, right? Like it's very rare to see a guy come in with a completely non-existent skill and develop that skill. Like even Brook Lopez could hit mid-range jumpers before he expanded out to 3, right? Like it's not like he came in with just a complete non-shooter, like he had.
You're speaking to outlier development. Like it had to be something not seen coming. And it doesn't happen often. Like guys like Kawhi Leonard late in the lottery, like that kind of stuff happens.
Super rare.
Like, right.
That's super rare. Like Asar, like you're banking on him being able to shoot, but that would be an extreme outlier scenario for a guy who shot 18% of his amount of attempts to become a respectable shooter. So I think that has to go into your team building strategy as well. Is like, how much are we banking on things happening that are either not going to or are just like very, very long paths to get to that point? And that's, to me, going back to Ivy, if you're not sure he'll ever get to the point to where he can become a shooter and you don't want to make him the engine you're playing Cade off ball, then at some point, you do have to move one of them.
All right, game off. We got to pause here to talk about Monopoly Go. I know what you're saying. Flag on the play. You already talked about that. But there's so much good stuff in this game. In Monopoly Go, you can team up with friends for time tournaments where you work together to build up each other's boards. The more you win together, the more awesome prizes you unlock. And there's so much to get. Unique stickers you can trade with friends to complete albums for big prizes. Cool new playing pieces to travel the boards with. Hilarious emojis for taunting friends when you smash their buildings or heist their vaults. That's probably my favorite part about it. Plus, Monopoly Go feels new and exciting every day with constantly changing tournaments and challenges. A ton include their own unique mini games like digging for treasure or a robot pachinko machine. And there's always new timed events that help you win big, like massive multipliers for everything you win or frenzies. There's always something fun to discover in Monopoly Go. So get off the bench and go download it now, free on Google Play or App Store. Game on with Monopoly Go.
Well, at the end of the day, you just can't have that many non-shooters on the floor, whether it's around Cade or any other player. Like this is endless. I don't want to turn it into like, do you draft for fit or best player, all that. Like I know everybody's say, see, we told you shouldn't have drafted. Like, and I understand it. Like I get it, but you still got to draft the best players that are there. And Ivy had shown some ability to be a catch and shoot guy. I think where I'm starting to wonder with Jaden is like, I think his rim pressure is a crazy valuable skill in the NBA. But Koo, you brought this up to be like, doesn't matter if he doesn't finish, doesn't matter if he doesn't always make the right decisions. And that's where I'm like, okay, what is the value then if he isn't able to? Early in the year when he was finishing at the rim really well, I was like, okay, I can see the vision. This could work. But then as that goes away, he's an unselfish passer. I think he's just a very off-target passer. And Omar, you bring up a good point too. Like, yes, we love the potential and we love to talk about growth, but like, we've seen guys not get better in the NBA. Like it's a real thing.
It's more normal to not get better when you consider how many guys flame out. Like the guys who stick around and improve technically are the outliers. Like in the average draft, like half the players don't even stick, right? So
correct.
Not to cut you off, Bryce, but yeah.
No, that's what I was gonna say. Like I still believe in his talent. All of these conversations have made me question the archetype of player in today's NBA. And then if it's not like, what's the value of that in the second unit, right? Like, I think I text you this, Koo, like maybe the one thing Monty got right was like, maybe Jaden Ivey is a guy off the bench. Maybe that's his best role is to come in against second units and just go crazy and transition, attacking the paint, all of those things. Maybe that's it, right? And then you have to weigh, is that more valuable, Koo, or is trading him for what you would be able to get for him more valuable?
So that right there is where I think that what you brought up is exactly where I'm at. That if the Pistons have gotten to that point where if what Monty did, if they agree with Monty, the Pistons, if they feel like, okay, our evaluation is we think Jaden Ivey probably will be best served as a bench as like the sixth man, then you need to trade him right now. You need you need to trade him right now because there's going to be teams out there right now that still think that they believe he has star on him, that he has fifth overall pick upside on him. if you play a full season with him, like coming off the bench, and it doesn't go like tremendously well, the value shot. That's where I'm at with it. So like, if your evaluation of him still is, we still think he can reach these heights, then okay, I get why you don't move him. But if your evaluation of him right now is like, okay, he's probably not, we don't think it's a likely path. It's still possible, but a likely path he gets there. He's probably going to be a bench coming off the bench for us. I don't see how the value of him off the bench outweighs him at this point as a trade asset. That's where I'd be.
I also want to point out just real quick, none of us know as good as the Pistons organization, his development as a shooter, right? Like Amari, I agree with you on Ausar. Like we don't know, but we also don't know what Ausar went through over the last 12 months in terms of how much did they change his shot? What are they telling him? How much progress have they seen outside of games? Like, so that's the other aspect of it, because to your point, Koo, if they're saying like, hey, we kind of messed with Jaden's confidence. We had him off the bench and then a starter and all of these different things. In his rookie year, we handed him the keys and that's not his role. And he's adjusting to being a volume 3-point. That's different, right? Like being a volume 3-point shooter is a different role for him. Only they know his mentality with that and kind of what progression he has shown, just like with Ausar. So there's an aspect of this we just never really know because we aren't seeing a lot of the work behind the scenes as well.
So let's go ahead and go here, and this will probably go another 15 minutes, and then this will probably be the last bit. Bryce and Omari, you guys are hired as the hobo. Sorry, Bryce.
I refuse to answer the question.
I'll be the hobo if Bryce wants to be the hobo. It is what it is. That's the title they picked.
So you are hired as the hobo for the Detroit Pistons.
Yeah.
Do you make trades involving them? What are some names that you are looking around the league at possibly acquiring? Are you making aggressive moves? What would you do if you were hired today as the head of basketball operations? You said, what would you guys do? Whichever one of you guys want to start first. I think it's clear. I don't think I need to say what I do.
Amari can go first. I'm just a lowly scout. I'm just a draft scout. Amari's the decision maker.
I'm gonna go with like the type of realistic, like 80 cents on the dollar deal I think could happen that definitely moves the needle forward. The Hawks have to shed salary, obviously. Like I could see them making a variety of moves this offseason. Can you get DeAndre Hunter? Like they have Jalen Johnson. Jalen Johnson's probably the better prospect long term. Well, he's probably the better prospect now, to be honest.
He was really good this year, yeah.
But DeAndre Hunter gives you a guy solid defensively, probably not the defender some thought he would be coming to the league, but certainly solid, gives you length, size on the perimeter, can knock down threes. Just a 3-and-D wing, right? Like you can absorb him right in the cap space, give up something minimal back just to fulfill a requirement. But something like that, like that's not like the highlight of the summer deal, but I would say that that's one of the deals I would consider if the goal is just to get NBA players into the room and obviously, reach the salary floor going into the season.
I think I'll stand by, Koo, that I would be willing to listen to offers with any of this stuff, including the draft pick. I'm just not selling on all the young core because I wouldn't be able to stomach that completely. I don't like having that conversation now, right? Like you trade 20-year-old Jalen Duren who just averaged 12 and 12, and it's like then he turns in 12 and 12 turns into 15 and 15. But like we've seen 2 years of him not really rim protecting and blocking shots and stuff, but only they know if that stuff is really there. So I was trying to look through some teams. Cleveland is a team I'm interested to see what they do, right? Like Evan Mobley was just incredible on Tuesday night. Do they move on from Jarrett Allen and, just hand the front court over to Mobley? Who were a couple other teams? Atlantis, and I don't think DeJounte Murray makes sense personally. The one thing with DeJounte is if he gets back to the defense he used to play in San Antonio, that fits a little bit better with Cade. Obviously, Mikal Bridges makes a ton of sense. That's maybe the one guy I would be a little more willing to move on multiple of the young core from. Naz Reid is a name I'm interested in if Minnesota wants to duck some of the cap stuff. Who were a couple other teams? BI is one that I don't love the fit. You could talk me into that being the move before the move. I would not let 3 of those young guys go for BI though. Like I want to be plain, like clear that I wouldn't move 3 of them.
So can you stay there just for a second? I'll let you keep going. The trade that I talked with Jake about on the podcast.
What did he like?
So the trade that was offered was Brandon Ingram and their first round pick this year, the 21st pick for Duren and the Pistons first round pick. Would you guys do that? Yes or no?
Like basically just an Ingram, Duran,
then
and pick spot.
And then you would
Yeah.
you would move back 20 to 15 spots in this draft, whatever that would be. They have 21.
And then obviously, I think the plan would then be, if you were to do that, the plan would then be, I'm assuming, like to get Claxton or Hardenstein free agency to replace Duran. I'm assuming that would be the plan, but I'm not like that's not for sure.
Yeah.
That's just my read.
There's also some
part of it for
interesting
me-
bigs at 21.
Yeah, there are. Yeah, part of it for me is if I'm moving down from 1 or from 5.
Yeah.
To be honest, like there's enough of a difference there. Like I would
If
think
it,
about
let's
it.
say it's not in 1. Let's say you're not getting Sar, because
Okay,
that's what my hang up was. If you were getting Sar, I'd say I probably would keep it. But
I still like the only way I really want to move off Duran is if I'm getting Sar. You know what I mean? But there's a path where if I made this trade, I get that wing bucket getter. Like what I mean, Brandon Ingram is a bucket getter at the end of the day. And again, like, and not to contradict myself, but I'm kind of crushing BI for what we just saw in the playoffs. And we just talked about how like this isn't a playoff team. Like he's going to go get a bunch of points in the regular season. I think you could then sign Hartenstein and then draft my guy Deron Holmes or somebody like that at 21 and still have a pretty good center spot. What do you think, Amari?
passion, drive, and patience. The formula for winning championships is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number-one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time, or you'll get your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers at ebaymotors.com.
Yeah, I think if you're moving on from Duran, you probably want to get some type of big man back. Again, like I think the Duran question is just going to be so key this summer because, like, and we talked about it with Sam, but his viability as the starting center just really comes down to the leaps he can make defensively and doing a lot of stuff that he just really hasn't shown yet, right? Bryce, you're more versed in the late first round centers than I am for sure, but like a guy I like is Kyle Filipowski. Honestly, like if you could move down and get him, like just a toolsy big, solid defensively, can shoot the ball, can move it. Like I think he could be like if you're getting Kelly Olynyk with like solid defense, that's
Flip
really,
wouldn't
really
be
good,
there
you know?
at 21 for me. That's why I didn't bring up his name. Like I had Filipowski as a lottery pick, but yeah, Filipowski, Deron Holmes, Misi, the kid out of Baylor, who's like, think Clint Capella. Koo, I don't know how much you've got into the draft. Like, I don't want to like
None at all.
insult you. Okay. Yeah. So like, Deron Holmes is a little like like he can step out and shoot it, but is also athletic, a good defender.
Is he kind of like a Noah Clowney type a little bit?
Yeah, but that's disrespectful. He's good.
Noah Clowney's not good?
Deron Holmes is good. That's all I know.
Okay. All right.
Cool. But yeah, probably what people thought Noah Clowney was.
Okay.
Or maybe still will be. Filipowski, think Kelly Olynyk, Koo, like what Kelly Olynyk is supposed to be, like dribble, pass, shoot, a little bit of defense. Misi is like Clint Capella-ish.
Can I say, so one of the reasons why I mean, you've talked about, I know this is one of the reasons why you're bringing it up, but just for the listeners, one of the reasons why you're bringing up a possible spacing 5 is because if you're moving on from Duran, there is some that believe that playing a Sar and Cade with the spacing 5 is the route to go, and then allow Sar be the guy running the pick and roll. So I know that's part of it.
I love that idea. Yeah. And so like, if you told me that's what you're going to end up with, like, again, Deron Holmes is one of my guys in this draft. So if you told me you traded Duran, you get this wing and Brandon Ingram, like my biggest pause with Ingram is the contract you're going to have to give him. He has
contract, I don't know if you know exactly what it is, but Jake told me what the contract on the last podcast, he's going to be seeking the max. He's not going to be accepting anything but the max. So it would be 4-year, 208. So it'd be 4 year, you'd be 52 a year, basically.
Whew.
Yes. That's
like
hefty.
I know,
like
I know that like just the values are just always going to sound high now, just because of
they are. You're right.
But even so, that's a lot of money.
I don't think I can do that.
Yeah, and again, like I thought Sam kind of hit the nail on the head, just in the sense that Ingram, kind of needs the ball to really be effective. He probably wouldn't play off Cade as effectively as you want. There's a lot of risk just because you're going to have to pay him soon. Like, I think that would, if they were 2 years on that deal, I feel better about it instead of him like becoming a free agent next summer.
Yeah, and that's what, like, I would assume you could still trade it, like in the scenario we talked about earlier, but I know we have to reconfigure how we think about contracts.
Yeah.
I think I would rather just make a move in free agency than, like go. And I know you're not getting a player as good as, like, I love Malik Monk. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I think Malik Monk, outside of the defensive aspect, is a great fit next to Cade Cunningham.
Mhm.
I would love to see that. And so like I would be more interested in something like that. That contract's pretty big for BI.
Yeah.
No. And when he told me it was 208, I was like, okay. I like BI a lot. That is a risk taking that you would have to feel pretty strongly about what you're doing. But yeah, I mean, I like BI, but that contract that's what had me pausing. I was like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I think BI is really good. And one of his quotes at the end of his exit interview, he talked about how he wanted to play with a point guard and get back to shooting catch and shoot threes like he did with Lonzo and oh my God, or Drew. And those 2 seasons were his best season of his career. I think most people would say he shot over 6 threes a game those 2 years. So if you could get back to that, if you guaranteed me he got back to that, I'd probably be comfortable doing it. But it's been 3 years since he shot 6 threes.
So it's that's the point, because I'm coming off a playoff series where I watched him not be good off the ball and the ball stick and all of those things. If you told me like, hey, he's willing to play in Detroit where his team's going to be worse, at least for a couple of years, and he's kind of willing to move back into that role of off-ball floor spacer type of thing, ideally be a little bit better defensively, I would. That's just such a huge contract. And here's the thing: at some point they're going to have to pay that to somebody, right? Like at some point,
yes.
They're going to have to do this. I'm not positive he's the guy, and that's why I have a little more pause.
No, I agree. That's the main. But I think the main point that you said, I want every Pistons fan to understand. At some point, they are going to have to take this risk. They're not going to get a star on a great contract because they don't have to. They're going to have to take a risk on somebody, and you just have to make sure that risk is the one you think will be the one that ends up hitting. So, like, that's the point I wanted to get across there. Omar, was there something you wanted to say?
Yeah, go ahead, El.
No, I've made my point on Ingram. Like, I just think that there's a lot of risk involved. Like, you do have to eventually spend that money on somebody. It is just, you're also going to have to spend a lot of money on your own guys too. So, like it's just such a tight window for this new president to have to make a lot of big decisions. But yeah, I would like Ingram like 10 million less a year, or if he became the type of shooter that you mentioned, cool.
So this is where we'll actually end the podcast. You guys see this? These notes. Can you guys read that?
Good NBA players, Pistons
fans are too good for.
Okay.
Well, I've started a list for like a few months. Because anytime you mention an NBA player, I feel like Pistons fans immediately rule him out because, like, oh, we have to give up something good. We don't want him. So this is the list I have so far, and you'll see where I'm going with this. This is the list I have so far. Zion Williamson, Kristaps, Duncan Robinson, Zach LaVine, P.J. Washington, Julius Randle, Chris Middleton, OG Anunoby, Pascal Siakam, DeJounte Murray, Mikal Bridges, R.J. Barrett, D'Lo, Klay Thompson, Brandon Ingram, Tobias Harris. So that's all the names I have that I feel like anytime we bring them up, there is going to be at least 50% of the fans that are like, no, I don't want to give up nothing for him. He's not going to take us to championship contention. So
Nas Reed on there.
I mean, I can do a poll, and if he doesn't win the poll, I'll put him on here.
Right.
We're still adding people to the list. The reason why I bring that up is I wanted to play a quick game with you guys, and it doesn't have to take too long.
Sure.
We got time.
I'm going to go through these names.
Okay.
I want you to tell me. You don't have to trade all 3 of them. But if you had to trade one of them, tell me if you would trade one of the young guys that we were talking about for these players. Just tell me yes or no. If you want to expand on it, go ahead. If not, you can just keep it yes or no. I'm going to go through each. I'm looking at Fanspo. Okay. I've been on here for like hours upon hours upon hours.
And the young guys, it's we're talking essentially one of Asar, Ivy, or Duran, basically.
Or the draft pick.
Yes.
Or the pick. Okay.
Okay, so I'm going to go through these names and just tell me if you would do it. So the first name that I want to go to, Julius Randle.
No.
Bryce?
Yes.
Okay. Do you want Do you want to expand a little bit on why you said you're going to be? I think Amari's is the cold take. I think yours is the hot take. So do you want to expand a little bit on why?
I mean, I just think Julius Randle's really good. Like, I think he's, and I don't have his contract in front of me, so like maybe I would change my mind there. But if I only had to trade one,
contract is 2 years, 30 a year.
Yeah, I think Julius Randle's good.
Yes.
Here's my other thing.
I'll change it to yes. That's pretty good.
I think Julius Randle's good.
Yeah.
Okay, next player. See, I was gonna say this player, but he's a free agent. I was gonna say Pascal, but that ship has sailed. Yeah. Tyler Hero.
Yes.
No.
Okay. Zach LaVine.
No.
No.
DeMar DeRozan.
No.
No.
DeJounte Murray.
How tall is he? Like 6'3"?
Yeah. He's 6'5", it says.
6'5",
but he may be lying.
DeJounte Murray 6'5"? I thought he was way shorter than that. That's a yes.
Yeah, probably a yes. And this probably goes back to the Randle one for me as well. Randle's probably not as good a fit. Like, I just crushed BI for not being a good fit. Randle likes to operate in the mid-range and all that stuff as well.
Trae Young.
No.
I mean, here's the Trae Young
discrimination for me.
Yeah, Trae Young's way better than all these guys. I think it makes no sense next to Cade Cunningham.
Yeah, like I would pair Trae with like one of the best defensive centers,
Victor Wembanyama. That's where Trae Young should be traded.
Victor,
to San Antonio.
Okay, Mikal Bridges.
Yes.
All right, this is not a player you can trade for. I just want to know if you guys would sign this guy. I don't see him being talked about a lot, and I'd be okay with it. Gary Trent Jr.
Yes.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, fair enough. Miles Bridges. Now,
I'm good.
No,
yeah, I'm good too. I wanted to see if you guys were out on Miles Bridges as well.
I essentially I'll answer this the same whether we're talking Pistons or not. Like, I just have no comment here. People will tweet me about him and I just won't respond. So if you tweeted me about Miles Bridges and I haven't responded, that's why. Like, I have no take here.
Yeah, okay. So we're all on the same page with that one. All right, Kyle Kuzma.
Yes.
Yeah, I would take Kuzma. I think so.
He's on an insane contract, Koo.
Well, he turns into Paul George every time he comes to Detroit.
That contract is insane.
Yeah.
It's decreasing in value. I want 3 of the Wizards players. I want Kuzma, I want Denny Advia, and I want Corey Kispert.
So let me ask you this. If you took the route of attaching picks to a contract to take them, would you take Jordan Poole?
No, thanks.
Even with the picks? You guys want to take the picks with it? What if Washington attached picks? You guys still wouldn't take it?
Which pick? What's the best pick?
Is he a good locker room guy? I want to know that answer. Is he a pain in the butt to deal with as a teammate? I would want that answer. I could deal with some of the on-court stuff if I was getting value, because again, this team needs somebody that can go get buckets for 82 games. But if he's a pain in the butt in the locker room, then that's not worth it.
Jordan Poole was one of the clutchest college players I've ever seen in my life when he was at Michigan. Maybe he just needs some Michigan water or something. I don't know.
There you go.
He might come back here and just become Jamal Murray. You never know.
I haven't even thought about him at all until you guys brought up the whole, like, we'll take picks, whatever, Bob. I just went by his name just now. I was like, well, maybe, that makes sense.
I also want to say this, Koo, like, some of these moves I would only do with the caveat that other moves were going to help them. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I wouldn't trade for Julius Randle and like, so like, let's trade Jaden Ivey for Julius Randle, right? In a vacuum, that doesn't make sense to me unless it's okay, but we're also going to sign Gary Trent Jr. and bring in X player and whatever and really go try to be good. Does that make sense? Like, you know what I mean?
Yep, I understand. So, I agree. Okay. So this is a name that I think I had someone bring this up to me. I was like, absolutely not. But I want to know if you guys feel the same. Maybe you guys disagree. Bradley Beal. No.
Yeah, I'm good.
The injury history.
I thought Bryce might say yes because he's a bucket getter. So
me and Sam just talked about this. Bradley Beal doesn't suck at basketball.
No.
It's just that he makes an insane amount of money and still I didn't realize the no trade clause went with him every time he got traded. So you can't move on. Like, he has a no trade clause when he would come to Detroit in this scenario. That's not a sin contract I would go after.
All right. And I think the last name I have here, I believe it's the last name. There's 2 guys. So first one is actually a tradable person, Andrew Wiggins. Would you guys actually do that? I know you brought it up earlier. Would you actually do
I would want more. And I also like, this is something we would never know. I would want to know, if I'm the decision maker, I'd want to know what's going on with Andrew Wiggins. Well, I want to know the why. If I'm going to trade for him in that contract, I would like to know why what has happened has happened.
Okay, and would you guys, this isn't a trade person, but this is the last person. Would you guys sign Klay Thompson?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, like he was not a bad player last season. He just wasn't
He's not
the
Klay
player
anymore.
they needed in that role, but he still averaged like 17 points on like really good efficiency. So
Yeah, would you, if you told me, depending on where else the money could have gone and all of that, that they bring him in for a 1 year, whatever, you know, like I could live with something like that with Klay. Like if Klay was like, hey, Golden State's only offering me this, I'll go make this for 1 year in Detroit and then hit the market again, and then I can go play on a contender. I think I'm into that. Like, because to me, that's not Joe Harris, right? Like, this is Klay Thompson.
Yeah.
Still ability. What he averaged 20 a game this year, right? Maybe it wasn't that much. Was it
I'm
close?
pretty sure he still cracked 40% from three.
No, I'm completely in on Klay Thompson. I'd like them to go get him if they could. But
so he only averaged 18 a game, but 39% from three on volume, 9 attempts a game. So
still 57.62 shooting percentage. So still really efficient. Would you sign him, Bryce? You said a 1 year deal. Would you sign him to a 2 to 3 year deal, overpaying him for those times?
No. The most I would
Mari,
do.
Would you?
Go ahead, Mari.
Depending on the amount of money per year, I would do 2 years team option 3rd year.
Okay, that's what I was thinking. Bryce, go ahead with what you were saying.
Well, I just say, like, I'd give him the Bruce Brown deal. Like, I would give him the 1 year plus, but it's a team option for the next year. That way I could keep, if I wanted to exercise it as a trade asset in terms of the money on it, I would do that.
Doesn't seem like you really want to do that.
I'm sticking with the 1 year. I'm sticking with the 1 year.
All right, we'll wrap up the podcast there. This is going to be, I say the podcast, this is going to be part 2. I don't know where I'm going to cut it off at, but this is going to be the second part of the episode.
I looked at the 30-minute mark, Koo, and we were right in the middle of the Jaden Ivey conversation. I'm like, man, Koo, good luck trying to figure out where you're going to break this one. You should just tease it. Like, just tease it. Like,
I am. That's what I was going to do.
Yeah. I love it.
I was going to cut one of you guys off literally in the middle of your guys' point and then interject myself and be like, you guys got to catch this one tomorrow.
That is
a cliffhanger. I love it. A cliffhanger.
I learned everything I know about social media and engagement from Koo, man. He knows how to play. He knows how to play the game. I like it.
Hey, man, you gotta be good at the game. You feel me? You gotta be good at the game.
Gotcha.
All right, I appreciate you guys coming on, man. This was a lot of fun. Do they hire a president of basketball operations by mid-May, May 1st or May 15th? Yes or no?
I'm gonna go no.
When do the Bucks get eliminated, Koo?
Within the next week.
Yes.
Okay, I say no.
Yeah, I'm going with no.
I think they take even longer.
They need to hire somebody. The combine is in.
No, I agree. I think they should.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to have anybody in place by the time the combine starts. I think probably back half of May.
Well, then they need to get me on retainer for a couple weeks so I can.
I agree. I'll pass the word.
There you go, Amari. See, that's what you get, Bryce. You have a co-host like Amari.
It only took 121 episodes and then one episode of Locked On.
You have never expressed your front office hopes until now, but I got you.
You know the exact number of the episodes, 121?
Well, we have an outline for everyone. Yeah. So like the outlines are just labeled by the episode number. So.
Fair enough. I was going to give you a lot more credit. You should have lied and said, yeah, I just remember. But
we don't even do the outlines anymore. Wes does the outlines. We just show up and talk. Amari can't even access the outlines. You don't even know where they're at. You don't know what's going on.
You don't look at the outlines. Just wait. So you guys are making outlines.
I look at the outlines.
I look at the outlines. I put in notes. Amari shows up and only opens it at the very end for his outro. That's it.
I read it beforehand too. Wes, I don't add anything in there because, like,
Wes, if you're listening to this, he's lying.
Because I don't know verses on my points beforehand.
Is showing up. He said you
can't outline everything. There's got to be some like spontaneity. Is that a word? I don't know.
Spontaneity sounds good to me. Like
spontaneousness. I don't know.
Spontaneity. I don't care. Like Amari's the star of the show. I don't care what he does. But when you said, Koo, that you didn't send us the outline ahead of time, I was like, oh, perfect. Amari will be right at home, not knowing what we're going to talk about.
I've read all 121 outlines.
You guys flowed really well with it. It didn't catch you guys off guard. You guys were good with it. It is what it is. All right, guys. Appreciate you guys coming on. Love to do it again. This is a lot of fun. I'm sure everyone's going to love it. I'll catch you guys later. Thank you guys for making Locked On Pistons your first listen of every single day. Go check out Pistons Pulse if you haven't already. Follow them both on Twitter. I'll see you guys in the next one. Stay safe out there. Till next time. Peace out.